Strictly speaking, my Masters was not an Accounting and Finance Masters. In fact, I was in the inaugural year of the Masters of Professional Accounting, which incorporated the CPA program. I noticed on the list before there's this Masters of Professional Accounting and a CPA stream. Back then it was the Masters of Professional Accounting, which had been incorporated with the PY for quite a few years, and then they incorporated with the CPA. So I was in the first year that happened, which I think was 94. But my journey started at Macquarie in undergraduate as well, and I came to Macquarie in 1988, which is around the same time some of the people in the room were born. And I was a terrible student in undergraduate. I really was. I failed some subjects in my first year, failed a subject in my second year, got to third year and went, I have to get a job next year. I better start trying a bit harder. And I did, and I started, getting some, I don't know if the grading's still the same as ABCs back then. I don't know if it's gone to high distinctions or distinctions, but ABCs, I started getting a few Bs and a couple of As. And it was time to think about getting a job late in the second half of the year. And there was the Employment Expo they held on campus. A lot of employers came, went to a lot of the interviews there. And with some of the employers, they said, well, if your grade point average wasn't a B, you didn't even get an interview, which was a bit tough because I'd been doing that the last 6 months, but not the previous sort of 2 years. But I managed to interview well and got through to quite a few large corporates, some of the big banks and larger companies at the time. And I was getting down to the final four and thinking I had a good chance. And they'd offer 2 positions, and the 2 positions would go to the person with the honours degree or the A grade point average or a bit of work experience. So I just kept missing out. This was in 1990 during the recession we had to have. And in the prior year, in 1989, those companies were taking 20 graduates into their graduate program, and I was making the final 4 but missing out because there just weren't any jobs around. So eventually I did manage to get a job, and I secured a job before the end of my degree, and managed to have a break overseas and came back. But it wasn't the job I necessarily wanted, and I could just see through the interview process that what I kept missing out on some roles was just my academic results weren't as good as they could have been, and I really had underperformed. So, in fact, truth be known, I didn't graduate back then. I was a graduand. I'd done an economics major, and I had a year of accounting. So I actually kept doing my accounting part-time. And so I did part-time for the first couple of years and finished with a double major in economics and accounting. And working full-time, studying part-time, I was a much more serious student, worked much harder, got much better results, and started getting A's through my part-time study. And then completed that, had a year off study, and then pretty much kept studying for most of my life, part-time. So I had a year off and joined the Masters of Professional Accounting. Professor Eddie at the time encouraged me to come back and do that. And I thought I'd do the CPA and I undertook that. And it was a lot of hard work. But it was very worthwhile. And I was committed to it, wanted to do it. And I think the important lesson that I learnt between undergraduate and postgraduate was in undergraduate, I studied to pass. I was just trying to pass. In postgraduate, I studied to learn. And having had some work experience, it actually meant something, what I was studying. It wasn't some esoteric idea of what a debit and a credit was. It was actually meaningful for what was going on in the company. So in doing that study, I felt like I learnt a lot more. I got a lot more confidence in myself, which is important in the workplace, that you're confident in what you're doing, that you have some substance behind you. And I felt the benefit of one of the key benefits of the Masters was a stronger self-belief. Clearly it made a difference at work. I was getting promotions every sort of 18 months, which certainly helped. And another important aspect, I think, in the Masters is actually the networking. You get to know, not everyone's like you. There were mature age students. There were people much higher up the corporate ladder than myself that I became good friends with. We did a lot of project work together and established good networks. And in fact, I ended up doing a bit of work, getting some contracting work and some other employment through those people. So the benefits of the undergraduate is not just, of the Masters is not just the qualification per se. It is the network you can create, the self-confidence that helps bring to you, and the more depth in your understanding of what you're doing. So for me, it was a lot of hard years of doing that, but was extremely worthwhile. The importance to me now in what I do, so I work for, it's a very long title there, but really Morgan Stanley, which is one of the big remaining US investment banks. I'm not an investment banker. I actually work in the private client area. So private wealth management. I give advice to high net worth individuals with their self-managed super funds, tax planning, investment management. Pretty much, it's a wealth management and future planning business. And there's about 75 families which I help, whose money I help manage. And the importance of the masters there is really a credibility issue. If you're dealing with someone meets you the first time and you're trying to say, let me manage your life savings, having the master's degree certainly helps the credibility perspective. So perception is very important, in relation to career, in relation to dealing with people, the perception. The importance of the master's, though, there was some substance behind the perception. It wasn't feathers with no meat. It gave me feathers and meat, which is important. And I continued to study post that. So I did my double major in economics and accounting. I did a master's in professional accounting, actually with a lot of finance electives, so that's why that's not totally inappropriate. In fact, doing those finance electives is what led me to move away from accounting, to be honest. Accounting is a fantastic background to business. It is a language of business, and I don't regret doing that at all. But within about a year of finishing the Masters of Professional Accounting, I was no longer an accountant. But it kept me in very good stead. I think it's added a lot of value for me. I then went on to do certified financial planning. I did some industry-specific qualifications with Securities Institute, etc. So up to the age of about 35, I'd only had 1 year off study. Crazy, I know. But having said that, I found joy in the study. I studied to learn. It wasn't to pass, so that's why I kept doing it. And in relation to my career, it's made a big difference in relation to getting promotions, changing jobs, changing companies. And then in what I've been doing for about the last decade, managing people's money, they have to feel comfortable they're dealing with someone who knows what they're doing. So the qualification, the post-nominals certainly help in doing that. So I strongly encourage you to find a master's degree that you're interested in, to look to study it to learn, not to pass, look to take the benefits of the networking, and really the inner belief and confidence that comes with that. I think it's extremely worthwhile. So thank you.